Good afternoon. My name is Preet Bharara, and I'm the United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York. Today, we announce criminal charges in one of the largest cyber hacking schemes ever uncovered. The charges involve cyber intrusions over several years, targeting 12 different companies, 7 financial institutions, 2 financial news publications, 2 software development firms, and a market risk intelligence company. By any measure, the data breaches at these firms were breathtaking in scope and in size. The defendants allegedly stole personal information for over 100 million customers, including 83 million customers from one bank alone, the single largest theft of customer data from a U.S. financial institution ever. That bank was J.P. Morgan Chase, as it has disclosed itself. To hide their tracks, the defendants allegedly operated their criminal schemes through over 75 shell companies and used close to 200 identification documents fraudulently, including 30 false passports from 17 different companies. In our view, the conduct alleged in this case showcases a brave new world of hacking for profit. It is no longer hacking merely for a quick payout. Rather, it is hacking in support of a diversified criminal conglomerate. It is hacking to locate victims. It is hacking to spy on the competition. It is hacking to maximize profit. In short, it is hacking as a business model. The conduct alleged in this case also, by the way, may signal the next frontier in securities fraud. Sophisticated hacking to steal material non-public information, something the defendants allegedly discussed for the next stage of their sprawling criminal enterprise, and you can see that in the indictment that was unsealed. So that's the bad news. The good news is that the FBI and the Secret Service have cracked this case, and we aim to prove it in court. The indictment describes the 3 defendants. Gary Chalone was the alleged leader and self-described founder of the cyber criminal enterprise. Ziv Ornstein was his principal deputy, opening bank accounts, creating shell companies, and managing payments among cohorts. And Joshua Aaron reported to Chalone and participated in the computer hacking and the stock manipulation scheme. Together, these defendants used cyber hacks into major global businesses to help advance several different criminal schemes. First, as previously charged, Chalone, Aaron, and Ornstein ran classic pump and dump stock fraud schemes. They artificially inflated the price of penny stocks through false statements and manipulative trading, and then dumped their holdings before the rest of the market recognized the fraud. But for this scheme to work, the defendants needed access to a lot of names and contact information, people to whom they could pump the stock before the defendants dumped the stock. What they needed was victims. That's where the defendants took this classic stock fraud scheme and brought it into the cyber age. Chalone and his co-conspirators allegedly hacked into networks of 7 major financial institutions and 2 financial news companies. Why? To get personal information for tens of millions of customers, people most likely to be engaged in significant stock trading. They then used that stolen private information to blast spam emails, falsely touting the penny stocks that they later dumped. So the valuable customer information they stole through their cyber intrusions helped generate for them tens of millions of dollars in stock fraud proceeds. In a way, it was securities fraud on cyber steroids. Second, for many years, Ornstein and their co-conspirators also operated internet gambling businesses that generated hundreds of millions of dollars in illegal proceeds. To protect this business, Chalone allegedly sought to undermine rival companies by hacking and stealing their customer information and by distributing denial of service or DDoS cyber attacks on his rival networks. Chalone allegedly even hacked into software development firms to spy on their employees' emails to make sure they were not favoring his competitors. Third, Chalone also allegedly owned and operated payment processing businesses that processed hundreds of millions of dollars in credit card payments for all types of criminal activity, including the distribution of illegal pharmaceuticals, counterfeit software, and computer malware, as well as for their own online gambling and illegal Bitcoin exchange businesses. Chalone and his co-conspirators used their cyber hacking skills to protect and advance these criminal enterprises also. For example, as alleged, Shalom cleverly hacked into a market intelligence company that worked with credit card companies to detect criminal conduct. Shalom, as we allege, monitored and reviewed that company's emails so that he could stay one step ahead of their efforts to detect the very type of suspicious conduct that Shalom's payment processing businesses were engaged in. And so, turbocharged in a way by their cyber hacking activity, Shalom and his cohorts, criminal businesses, generated hundreds of millions of dollars in illicit proceeds that Shalom concealed in bank accounts around the world. You can see that graphically depicted in this chart. To my right, as I said, it was hacking to enable securities fraud, internet gambling, payment processing, all in different ways, including in these two examples, spying on the competition and on monitors, and in that case, engaged in hacking in order to find victims for the fraud, 7 financial institutions, 2 newspapers, and you see that all depicted there. Just a status on the defendants themselves. Shalom and Orenstein are Israeli citizens. They were arrested in Israel in July on an earlier indictment that charged them with just the securities fraud scheme, money laundering, and related crimes. We are asking Israel to extradite Shalom and Orenstein, who are both currently in custody in that country. Aaron is an American citizen and has not appeared to face the charges on the earlier indictment, and he remains a fugitive. We also unsealed today an indictment of Anthony Murgio, who was previously arrested on a complaint and is charged with operating the same illegal Bitcoin exchange business as Shalom. Now, I want to thank our partners in this case, but before that, let me just make something, I think, clear. This is not an ordinary case. To solve a case like this takes something special. It takes grit and ingenuity and collaboration of the first order. The sad truth is that to date, complex and global cyber intrusions like these tend to go unsolved, and the criminals tend to go unprosecuted. More often than not, the trail goes cold and the perpetrators get off. But we believe that we can change that narrative, and this case is game-changing proof. It is a testament, really, to our partners at the FBI and the Secret Service in making this case, and also a testament to how beautifully they have worked together to bring us to this point. The investigation essentially started with one victim company and one hack. And as we dug deeper and used all the investigative tools at our disposal, we were able to unearth the gargantuan scheme that you see in the charges unsealed today. So let me thank the FBI, represented here today by Assistant Director in charge of the New York Field Office, Diego Rodriguez. I want to thank him, as well as members of his team, including Special Agent in charge of the Special Operations and Cyber Branch, Ari Maheris, Assistant Special Agent in charge, Richard Jacobs, Supervisory Special Agents Jay Kramer and Lillian Perez, and Special Agents Patrick Hoffman, Joel DeCapua, and Jonathan Luca. And of course, the Secret Service as well, represented here by Robert Sicca, Special Agent in charge of the New York Field Office, and also his team. Kenneth Pleasant, Assistant Special Agent in charge, Supervisory Special Agent Scott Serafian, and Special Agent Tate Jarrell. And obviously, I want to thank the career prosecutors in my office who worked so hard to make this case possible. Nicole Friedlander, Eun-Young Choi, and Sarah Lai. Paul Krieger, who with Nicole leads our complex frauds and cybercrime unit, and Ted Discant of our money laundering and asset forfeiture unit. Also, because Shalom's cyber criminal enterprise was a global one, international cooperation was critical, and it continues to be more and more critical in every case that we bring along these lines. We obtained evidence and legal assistance from 11 different countries. Among them, I would like to specifically recognize and thank the Israeli National Police and Ministry of Justice for their indispensable assistance. Today, we have exposed a cyber criminal enterprise that for years successfully and secretly hacked into the networks of a dozen companies, stealing the personal information of over 100 million people. The full scope and breadth of these intrusions and the additional crimes that they enabled were revealed only after intense and coordinated law enforcement efforts. And I think there are a couple of lessons here. One is that even the most sophisticated companies have to appreciate the limits of their ability to understand the full scope of any cyber intrusion and to stop the perpetrators before they strike again. If they have been hacked, most likely others have been as well, and even more will be. Their best bet to identify, stop, and punish cyber criminals is to work closely and early with law enforcement. That happened here, and the results speak for themselves. Speaking more broadly about the cyber threat, I think by now everyone appreciates that there is an army of computer saboteurs and spies and thieves and nihilists out there who wish to do us harm, who wish to upend our markets, drain our accounts, steal our secrets, halt our economic progress, and destroy our infrastructure. But we have an army too. It comprises the best law enforcement agencies in the world, the best intelligence agencies in the world, the smartest business people in the world. Without any doubt, we have the wherewithal to withstand the cyber threat, no matter how large and how frightening. The question is, do we have the will? And I hope this case demonstrates that we do. Now let me call to the podium my friend and partner, Diego Rodriguez of the FBI.
Thanks, Preet. Good afternoon, everyone. Shalon, Aaron, and their co-conspirators allegedly robbed the victim companies, often for months at a time, stealing the contact information of tens of millions of customers. They cloaked themselves in secrecy, but their methods rivaled those of the traditional masked robber. Over the past 3 years, these defendants and others allegedly stole data related to tens of millions of U.S. citizens from at least a dozen of U.S. and international corporations. That data was then used in furtherance of other financially driven criminal schemes, including stock market manipulation and illegal online gambling, among others. The idea of employing contemporary tactics to commit conventional crimes isn't a novel approach. Criminals continue to perpetrate a wide variety of crimes online, and significant cyber data breaches have had negative impact amongst the variety of industries. The FBI and our partners continue to build upon and improve our ability to work with domestic and international partners to pursue criminals engaged in this type of activity. We have engaged the private sector and will continue to foster relationships to improve network security and recognize future threats. When it comes to cybercrime, we know that preparedness is increasingly more important than prevention. Today's indictment sheds light on an increasingly complex threat, but just as criminals continue to develop relationships with one another in order to advance their objectives, the law enforcement community has developed a collaborative approach to fighting these types of crimes as well. Many thanks, as always, to our partners from the Southern District of New York, U.S. Attorney Preet Bharara, Chiefs of the Complex Frauds and Cybercrimes Unit, Nicole Freelander and Paul Krieger, and the Assistant U.S. Attorneys in charge of the prosecution, Yoon-Un Choi and Sarah Lai and Ted Diskant. I'd also like to thank our partners at the United States Secret Service, especially Special Agent in Charge Robert Sika, Assistant Special Agent in Charge Ken Pleasant, Supervisory Special Agent in Charge Scott Serafian, and Special Agent Tate Jara. We would like to specifically recognize the outstanding work of the Israeli National Police for their exceptional support throughout this investigation. We also received substantial assistance from the FBI's Atlanta field office, in particular, Special Agent Mark Ray. Last but not least, I extend my sincere congratulations to the FBI Special Agents Patrick Hoffman, Joel DeCapia, and Jonathan Luca, and Supervisory Special Agents Jay Kramer and Lillian Perez and their teams for their work on this investigation. Thank you.
Thanks, Diego. Now I'll call to the podium Robert Sika, Secret Service.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. The Secret Service is mandated and deeply committed to protecting the integrity of our nation's financial institutions and financial systems, the core of which are located here in New York City, by proactively investigating and pursuing transnational criminal organizations and cyber criminals. This case proudly illustrates the interagency success between the Secret Service New York and the FBI New York. The collective achievements of this joint investigation are the direct result of the collaboration between highly skilled investigators and prosecutors. In particular, I want to recognize the Southern District's Chief of Complex Frauds and Cybercrime Unit, Nicole Freelander, and Assistant United States Attorneys Yoon-Un Choi, Sarah Lai, and Edward Diskant. Transnational cyber criminal organizations operate with impunity regardless of national borders. Law enforcement agents and officers in several countries played an integral role in this investigation, And in particular, I would like to thank the Israeli National Police for their extraordinary cooperation and support. Because of this, no cyber criminal is beyond our reach. Cyber threats and attacks are increasing in frequency, scale, sophistication, and impact. Cyber intrusions have increased substantially in recent years. Annual reports of data breaches have increased roughly fivefold since 2009. The seriousness of these breaches is also rising, totaling billions of dollars in economic impact, and more Americans are being personally affected by these crimes. In order to combat this cyber threat and bring the perpetrators of these attacks to justice, the Secret Service relies not only on its law enforcement relationships, but also on private sector partners to share intelligence information and cybersecurity threats. This investigation exposes the vast and imaginative criminal infrastructure of transnational organized crime. It is our goal to utilize our Electronic Crimes Task Force to promote a robust law enforcement and private sector partnership within the tri-state area, to respond, confront, and suppress the growth of international cybercrime. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Happy to take your questions.
Can you speak more about Aaron's whereabouts, like in Russia? Are you working with Russian authorities? Was he last?
All I said is he's a fugitive, and that's where I'll leave it. If you see him, let us know. Yeah. It was the largest pump and dump scheme. There are a lot of schemes like that, but it's, I mean, look, in the area of cybercrime, and there have been a lot of big cases and amazing cases brought, not just by this office and with these agencies here, but in Pittsburgh and New Jersey and all across the country, it becomes difficult to describe, in superlatives how big a case it is. To our knowledge, it's the largest case in terms of how many people's accounts and personal information with respect to a financial institution were hacked into, which I think is large. Yeah.
Can you elaborate on how it was you were able to track down these? Because attribution in cyber incidents is so difficult. So can you elaborate on that and maybe what role JP Morgan cybersecurity team played or the intelligence community, API?
Yeah, these folks can elaborate, but I don't want to go into too much detail, and certainly no detail beyond what's in the indictment. As I said at the outset, and I think you've heard repeated both by the Secret Service and the FBI, what's very important here is for there to be collaboration and cooperation. And the bank, Victim One in this case, came forward early on. That doesn't always happen with respect to banks and other financial institutions, and shared the information that they had based on what their forensic folks internally understood to have happened. Secret Service and FBI experts analyzed that further and were able to determine more information about it. And as you might imagine, it's a matter of sleuthing by people who took a look at the signatures and at the various bits of information given to us by the bank and their own information as well. And that's how, I know it's an unsatisfactory answer because I'm not giving you chapter and verse on how individuals specifically were identified, but that's basically how it worked. Yeah.
While you were speaking, U.S. Attorney and Atlanta announced that the related charge numbers here is against Shalom and Aaron or Hackett.
Yeah, as happens now, when you have broad-based criminal enterprises like this one, particularly in the cyber area, it is sometimes the case that other prosecutors and other agents are looking at aspects of something that you were also looking at. My understanding is they had an open case with respect to one of those financial institutions before Victim One's hack that's described in our indictment. And so they have a case that they brought. My understanding also is through mutual agreement that the two defendants that are over whom there's overlap are going to be brought here first and be prosecuted here first. And we have the only active extradition proceeding with respect to those two defendants. Yeah. Yes, you. This question of how sophisticated an attack is and how shoddy a defense is, those are hard to define. What I will say is, obviously you have a situation where every company needs to make sure that it's doing the best that it possibly can. Were the defenses here perfect? No. Is there such a thing as a perfect defense? I don't know. You'd have to ask other experts. But certainly it's true that, speaking generally, that companies need to do a better job of protecting all the information that they have, because even information like email addresses and location information can be used for devious purposes and mischievous purposes to the detriment of a lot of people who are their customers. So obviously defenses need to be better, and I think with respect to some of these victims, you have heard and will hear them talking about expending more resources and bringing on more personnel to make sure that they're guarding against these problems more going forward. With respect to, on the other side of the equation, with respect to how sophisticated the attacks are, and not all attacks are done by nation states and are at the highest sophistication level. Sometimes simple things like backdoors and exploiting vulnerabilities, one of which I think is described in the indictment, is something that can allow someone who has mischievous purposes to get a foothold and do enormous amount of damage. So, both sides of the equation need to be dealt with. Yeah, I'm not going to comment on anyone's cooperation. And he's, yeah.
Question about the CoinMX. I guess they're charged separately, Mergio as opposed to the other three gentlemen. Is that because Mergio's CoinMX was providing customers and information data to Shalom, this organization? I see that Shalom was described as being the owner of CoinMX.
Yeah, I'm not going to comment on why it's a separate indictment, but I do want to make clear that Mergio is not charged with any of these hacking activities. Just so that's another reason for the separation. Last question.
Along the lines with Sergio, when you were previously charged with another defendant, Lebedev, can you comment on the status of the case not being indicted? And along those lines, I was also wondering if you could clarify your comment about Atlanta. Were you saying that victim one was, for your office, the one that began with the initiation of the investigation?
Yeah, with respect to that, with respect to victim one, yes, I think that's fair to say. And with respect to the other defendant you mentioned, I still think he's on a complaint and has not been indicted yet, and there are discussions between the parties. Thanks, everybody.